Thank you, Bob. Hello, everyone. And Bob asked me to come tonight to talk about the new oil line update law and specifically the insurance requirements that are associated with that. And I shouldn't say insurance requirements, I should say the opportunity to buy insurance to cover the things that are not necessarily currently covered by your homeowner's insurance now. And I guess as a little disclaimer that because everybody's insurance policies are different, what I'm talking about tonight might not apply specifically to your homeowner's policy. So I would recommend that you review that with whoever your insurance advisor is and see what kind of coverage you might have now. But I will comment generally on how the more or less standard homeowners 2000 product would respond to the situations that we'll be talking about here tonight. And I decided to do it in the form of frequently asked questions that I could think of that I thought people might be interested in terms of what the law is, which Bob has already given you some of an update on, and what the insurance will be that will be available for homeowners who are in compliance with the law. And so the purpose, basically simply to prevent oil leaks. Very commonly, leaks from the oil supply lines can go on for a period of time without being detected. Bob showed you that copper tubing, and while it is very substantial, if it's in direct contact with concrete or with the earth, it could be in a corrosive environment, and over time, it could be breached and result in a leak of heating oil. And you can imagine that if it's down in the concrete, that it might be hard to detect it, and that it would be something that would happen very slowly over time. And the consequences of a leak, depending upon how extensive it is, can be quite expensive. And so there's I think, as Bob mentioned, the combined efforts of the oil heat industry, the Mass Department of Environmental Protection, fire services, and the insurance industry to try to come up with a solution to reduce the number of leaks that occur and try to reduce the severity of leaks and provide you with some insurance coverage that you probably don't have now. Thank you, Joe. What the law requires is either certification that you already have, protected oil line of the kind that Bob showed you with that plastic orange coating on it, or that you have an oil safety valve that Bob showed you that is an anti-suction device, and it prevents a leak from your tank. And the second part of it is that in exchange for having your system protected in that way, the insurance industry is required to offer to you coverage for damage to your own property, cleanup on your own property, and liability coverage for cleanup in the event that a leak gets out into the environment or affects someone else's property. Law takes effect July 1, 2010, coming up in a couple of months. Owners of 1 through 4 family residential dwellings are required to be in compliance with the law. There really aren't any exceptions or exemptions, except that you may comply already. I think, as Bob might have pointed out to you, if your system or your oil line or your tank was installed or upgraded on or after January 1 of 1990, you are probably already in compliance with the law. And if you have your oil burner permit from that time dated on or after January 1 of 1990, that may be sufficient evidence that you're in compliance with the law. And the other way to comply is if your line is run overhead, the way that Bob described, in terms of what it might cost to comply with the law. Bob mentioned somewhere in the $200, $300 range. That is consistent with what the DEP puts out in some of their publications about what it could cost to comply. And the point that they make, and that I would emphasize, is that that is just a small fraction of what it would cost to deal with the consequences of a leak. So it really is a good risk management thing to do from the standpoint of your own home. And if you find that you meet certain income criteria, you might even be able to get financial assistance for it. And there's some information in the handout that I gave you about that and who to contact about that. So in terms of knowing whether or not you're in compliance, one way is to have a licensed burner technician from Crowley Fuel come and check that for you, and they'll be able to tell you if you're in compliance or not. Or maybe you have a copy of your oil burner permit, again, dated on or after January 1 of 1990. That should mean that your system is in compliance, that it has either an OSV, the oil supply valve, or the protected oil line in that non-metallic sleeve. Okay, so one question I thought of is, well, doesn't my homeowner's policy already cover me for this? Not necessarily. And we'll look at it in kind of two pieces. The first is your property coverage portion, the part that covers your home and that covers your personal property. And in that part of the policy, there is only coverage for the damage caused by pollution to your own property based on only certain specified causes of loss. And they don't, while they include things like fire, windstorm, vandalism, attempted theft, that sort of thing, it doesn't include the most common cause, which is this potential for corrosion over time, and whether that's in your oil line or in your tank. Additionally, there are exclusions in that section of the policy, the property section, with respect to the cost to clean up a leak of oil on your own property. And then the second part of it is the liability section of your policy. And again, you would have to check, but in a standard homeowner's contract for either the 1991 form or the 2000 form, there's really not an exclusion for liability for pollution in that part of the policy. So you could have some coverage if a leak, say it spreads into soil or groundwater and affects somebody else's property. You could have coverage for that scenario. But what you're really missing out of your homeowner's policy, more than likely, unless you have an endorsement that provides the coverage, is any coverage for damage to your own property or cleanup of a leak on your own premises. So, in keeping with my disclaimer, check your own policy to see what it might say, but in general, that's how it works.